That's true.
All right, we are here with the one and only Mr. Sam Sweis himself.
Guys. Pleasure.
This is our first pod. Super excited to have you on, man.
Happy to be here.
Every franchise dealership I go to, when I go to prospect and I show them a reference for videos and I show them everybody knows you. I go, it's Sweis Infiniti, it's Sweis Infiniti. So it's definitely a big moment for us. Appreciate you being here. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of start this off with, I know who you are. I got introduced from a colleague with you when you were at the Volkswagen of Orland store. And I know you came here about a year ago and moved over here, but I kind of leave that up to you. Just, if you want to tell them who you are, how you got in the business, just kind of a introduction of yourself. And
yeah, started in the business 23 years ago in California. Started at Folsom Dodge, went to be a reporter, and then just got into sales. I looked the way I look now when I was 16 years old, 15 years old. So I kind of fit the mature role of being a salesperson, and I got into it. Started selling cars. It was a really busy store. It was the #1 Dodge store in California, and just kind of fell in love with I have a very short attention span. So in this business, every deal sits on its own, and every month you get a full report card. You know how you do. If you had a good month, great. There's a new month coming. If you had a bad month, that's good too, because you have a new month coming. So it kind of fit my personality and what I like to do. So I love cars. I think more than the car part of it, just meeting new people. It's always been easy for me to talk to people and figure out what their issue is, what the problem is, and solve that problem. And everybody needs a car, so yeah.
Well, two things. How old were you? Thank you for that. How old were you when you were in California as a porter?
I grew up in California my whole life.
Oh, wow.
And then, so the store was in Northern California near Sacramento. Started there when I was 15, and then I got into sales when I was 16, and then just kept on moving up.
At a very young age, you got into this.
Yeah.
California is definitely a different market, I would imagine, too.
It's a different car market. The public transportation is not huge in California. So, like here in the Chicagoland area, you have the CTA, the MTA, you have trains, Red Line, Blue Line. California is so big and wide, everybody needs cars. There's no, there's public transportation, but it's, because of its landscape, cars are important. Everybody needs a car.
Yeah.
So they're dependent on that. Especially people, blue collar workers, they need cars to get to work. And in an industry that kind of, I would say, depends on volume. That's how I learned how to get in this business, was high volume. The store was. We'd sell hundreds of cars a month. We would have a 100-car weekend, and working 7 days a week there. There's no Sundays off like here in the Midwest. You learn how to really hustle in the business, how to work hard, and the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. It's one of those businesses. It was scary at first, not getting paid a salary or hourly. It's 100% commission, and that's why there's a lot of turnover in the business. Not everybody can handle that. It's a lot of pressure. Like I said, you could have a great month. Then the following month, you got nothing. You got $0 in the bank, so you got to get at it again and hustle every day.
Yeah, that's ballsy.
Sam, I wanted to dive in your personal life.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you love talking to people. How important of a skill is that in this industry, number one? And then number two, how does someone learn that? Like if I'm just starting this, how would I learn how to talk to people?
It's a good question. So my ethnic background is Middle Eastern. So we have big families, and when you have a lot of older cousins like I do, you get picked on a lot, and you kind of got to defend yourself. Well, that kind of gave me, or I would say, gave me the thick skin, because this business, one of the things they first tell you is that you need to have thick skin. You got to take denial real well. Someone comes in. I'm not ignorant to the fact. Someone comes to a dealership, they're not expecting a great experience, right? They're off the bat, they don't like you. They don't even know who you are. They don't know your name. But when they first walk in, the first impression is huge. So you got to dress well. You got to be clean. You got to be presentable, and you got to make them feel welcome in the first few seconds. If you don't get that going off the bat, it's going to be a very, very tough road ahead of you in the business. But it does take some time. It's hard. I would say it's not a skill that you learn easily. You kind of have to have it. And in this business, when I first started, they hired 50 salespeople, and they called it car college, right? They kind of taught you in a conference room for 2 weeks how to sell cars. And I think within the first month, it ended up being 20 of us left. And then after 3 months, I was the only one left out of 50 people. So that thick skin comes in. You got to be able to take hate. You got to be able to take denial. You got to be able to take the no's. But I really think if you keep the customer in mind and figure out what they want, there's a reason why people come to a dealership. It's not because they woke up today and say, hey, you know what, I want to buy a car, right? We call a prospect someone comes in and up in the car business, and I've always defined that as unidentified problem. Figure out what they want, whether it's they got a new job, they need a more economical vehicle, they have a new kid, they need more space, they got divorced, have a midlife crisis, they want a sports car. Once you figure out what their issue is and what their problem is, per se, then if you solve that problem and give them what what they're looking for, then it becomes an easier road. And if you keep that in mind and keep your center on the customer's needs, then it becomes much easier.
That's good.
You mentioned you approach the customers right away, which is very big, obviously, in car sale, because if someone comes in, they could just easily walk out without interaction.
Correct.
How do you build a strong ecosystem inside your dealership, and what makes your dealership unique?
I mean, so that's a good point. The first impression I got in sales in regards to an up or someone coming in was, there's a bunch of vultures going to come and jump on a customer. Luckily, where I started, we didn't have that issue. There was a process on who got the next customer, which kind of got rid of that whole idea of we're going to jump on the customer. So that was your customer. You're going to take care of them. You give them some space. If they get out of the car and you're at their door, they're not going to be very very comfortable. So I think for me, so we do a little bit of a different process here. I mean, listen, there's no reinventing the wheel, right? So in this business, it's I've done it for 20-something years. Most of the processes in the car business have been around for a long time, but you just got to redefine them a bit and kind of fine tune them. We do a bit of a different process. When someone comes in here, we have a guest sheet, like a wants and need analysis sheet, and that is meant to sit a customer down. And we have a big lot. We might have cars inbound. We might have cars that we just purchased that aren't here yet. We kind of ask them, what are they here for? A lot of times customers, because of the internet, they know what they're coming to buy. They know it's a QX80, QX60, I want the Lamborghini, like they know what they want. But then a lot of times they don't. They just know they want an SUV, and we ask them questions. What's their wants and needs? What about this SUV or this vehicle they like? We ask them about their vehicle they're trading in, because a lot of times you can solve their problem if you figure out what the issue with the current vehicle is. What do you like about your vehicle? What you don't like about your vehicle? Absolutely. It's a conversation. It's not an interrogation. So you have that conversation with the customer. You figure out what they need, and then you kind of come in, and also you can save them money, because a lot of times people come in here and say, hey, I want a QX80. I want it loaded. Well, your definition of loaded might be different than my definition of loaded. You might come in and you think leather seats and backup camera is loaded. So they come in, they want the top of the line. That might be $120,000, but you figure out, hey, listen, everything you ask for is, leather, backup camera. These options you can get into a deluxe, which will save you $25,000. When a customer sees that you're listening to them and you're solving a problem and you're not just trying to get every penny, it makes it much easier. And that's how you build. So you're just building layers of trust. So you spend time with them first. You're not just taking them right to a car. You have a conversation. You make them feel welcome. You give them a bottle of water or something to drink, and then have the conversation on different options. And then once you give them options, then you prove that you're listening, and then they're more open to talking to you about how to earn their business.
Yeah, and I think what I really liked what you said is that you find out what their needs are. You said it's fully loaded, but then you find out it might be the model underneath that actually captures all of the needs, and you said you save them $25,000. What I really like about that is you're not looking at the short term of that. You're looking at, just because of that, now you've got a customer for life and their network and their referrals.
Well, that's huge. I mean, customer acquisition cost is super high in this business. It's a very competitive business. I mean, there's about 2,500 new car franchises in the country. Wow. You could throw a rock and hit 3 different dealerships. So how do you stand out from those other dealerships? How do you stand out from the competition? And I think long term, if you do focus on the customer first, and obviously reviews are huge, you do get that referral business. And always the happiest customers who go through our process, they're bringing customers in, they bring their friends or neighbors, and they want to show that they had a good experience. They want to feel like they have that connection with the dealership, because
I think it's really important.
It's not a fun process. No one wants to, no one is like, oh my God, cool, this weekend we're going to go shop for cars. So if they can eliminate that and kind of feel at ease a bit, it makes the whole thing easier.
I agree. I think car shopping could be one of the biggest struggles as a consumer.
Yep.
Especially trying to find that dealership you trust. And kind of to piggyback off what he was saying, when you about your team and your process. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, when you got this store, what are some of the things, even this store in general, in the past or where we are today, what's one of the things that you look for when building a team or you're bringing on a new hire? Are there certain key traits that you look for when building a team or hiring?
Well, unfortunately, that reputation that we talked about earlier, where people have, I mean, it's not for no reason. There's a good reason why consumers don't like dealerships. There's a lot of people who want to. It's a business you can make a quick buck in, but you won't have longevity in the store. So, I mean, I think the history of the person you're interviewing is important. Talking to them, I spent probably 90% of the interview asking about them. What do they do? What do they do outside work, right? Do they have kids? Do they have a wife? Do they have a girlfriend? What's their hobbies? I always ask them what makes you famous, right? Oh, I'm the best golfer. Oh, I don't have time to have my kids. Or you kind of get to know who the person is. My first boss always said, never hire somebody you wouldn't invite to your house. And so I kind of keep that in mind too. Like, is this a person that I would have over and wouldn't be embarrassed of or worried about, hiding my valuables?
Love that.
And if you have that person at your store, then your customers are taken care of. And don't get me wrong, there's still going to be people that, no matter what you do, the best deal, the best service, they're not going to be happy. And that's fine. They built that callus from their experiences, and that's okay. Like, we're still going to take care of them. There's going to be, I always say, the 80% rule. There's 10%, no matter what you do, they're going to hate you. There's going to be 10% that they love life and they're just, here to get a car. They don't care what you do. But it's that 80% in the middle who are kind of in between that you want to cater to and try to make them feel more comfortable. To work in CSI, Customer Service Index, it's, I don't focus on the customer, and that's not a negative thing. You focus on your employees. If you have happy employees and they like where they work and they don't come to work dreading, like, they're pulling the back of the lot, like, oh my God, I got another day here. That resonates with the customers. If they come here, I always tell our salespeople, they don't know if you're having a good day or bad day. They don't know if you sold a car, you haven't sold a car in a week, or if you sold a car 2 minutes ago.
Of course.
It's not the customer's fault, and it's not their responsibility on your happiness. So if you take care of your employees, that's who's representing your dealership. My name's in the building, but each person that works here is representing the dealership. It's
your team that represents you, and I think that's something you did really good with, man. I know my first time coming in here, before I stepped into your office, I parked up, and it's like, usually other dealerships, it's like the vulture. As soon as I park, man, they're just hovering over my door, looking through my window. It's just this unwavering feeling I do not like.
And it's funny you said, because when I bought the store, I secret shopped it a few times before I bought it, and I came in here and I probably spent a good 15 minutes outside and no one came and talked to me, right? I pulled up in a Range Rover. I had a whole fake story in my head, like, hey, I'm looking for a bigger vehicle. I had to go find a salesperson. She came out. It was one of the worst processes ever, and just had no care. No manager came out and talked to me. There was nothing like that, which is terrible, but it made me feel good because the store wasn't profitable before we bought it, and it wasn't selling cars. So you knew the problem was the process in the store and the management. It's not the building that sells cars.
It's the people inside the building.
So that's an easy fix for me.
No, love it. Yeah, I think that's my first time coming here. I wasn't getting vultured, but at the same time, there was like that right balance where someone approached me, asked if I needed help. And that's when I came and I said I was here to see you guys. So yeah, definitely a good experience for myself here. To kind of make a pivot. Now, I know you mentioned earlier purchasing, getting inventory. So it's kind of a pivot, but kind of want to tap into a little bit in the wholesale scene. So we have some notes here. Like, what are some auction platforms that you prefer for purchasing?
This is the $100 million question that every dealer in the world wants to answer. There's no right answer for that. It's different. So we have cars here from $5,000. We have cars that are $500,000, and each bucket of cars is a different way of buying it. The number one way to acquire vehicles is from the street, from customers. Whether it's advertising at people here, Facebook Marketplace, direct social media. Social media has been a big key for us on acquiring, especially exotics, and even budget cars.
Nice.
A lot of consumers, they go to CarMax, and it's funny in the car business. We always joke about CarMax because it's not a great deal for a customer, but they rather pay a little bit more to not go through the typical experience of a car dealership. But they've really positioned themselves in the market to be a buying center, and they have a lot of money behind them. They have their whole 80% of their budget, 90% of their advertising budget is to acquire vehicles, not to sell vehicles. But yet they're the largest used cars, volume store in the country. So I mean, for us, I would say my focus from buying the store has really been social media and reaching out to customers, staying in front of them. So when they do think about either trading a vehicle in or just selling their vehicle, I'd rather pay more for your car than go to the auction where I have no idea the history. I would say 30% of the cars we buy from auction doesn't make it to the front line, because you get it in here, you find there's an issue with it, there's another problem, then you're wholesaling again. So you're buying other people's problems, and that's not uncommon. And then you got to network. You got to find other dealers, other wholesalers. You got to find other customers. You find with exotics, you find car collectors that, there's a customer now I'm working with in Ohio. He has 45 exotic cars that I'm trying to acquire. So you got to be involved. It's not something that you can take a day off. It's like working the market, right? If you're buying a couple of stocks here and there, you're not going to know what the market is, the trends. You got to figure out the trends. You got to see what's coming up, and you got to keep an ear out there for what's going to be hot. And it can shift. Market can shift. You can buy when you're dealing with cars that are, above $250,000. When the market shifts, it can shift positive in a great way, or it can go down.
It's like the stock market.
It can go down a lot. You buy a car, all of a sudden, you buy an SF90 a year ago for $600,000, and today you can't sell it for $399. So that stings a bit. So you have to be quick. And one of the sayings in this business is your first loss is your best loss. So if the car is going down, just shoot it, move on with life, and get the next one. Every used car out there is cash. So if your cash is not working, it's not moving, it's going to be a problem.
I wanted to kind of pull back from the business side and kind of take you to your personal life. When you were a little kid, were you like a car enthusiast?
No.
Were you like into business? Were you a problem solver? What were you like?
No, it's funny. I grew up in the Bay Area, in South San Francisco. I have I'm one of four kids. Parents were immigrants from Jordan. My dad drove taxi for 30 years, and then he got into the restaurant industry in San Francisco. Always worked. I mean, it's funny. What got me into sales was, I always wanted nice shoes, right? I always wanted the Jordans, but trying to take your immigrant dad to the mall and get a pair of Jordans for $250 it doesn't work out very well. So it's funny. I was just talking about this the other day with my cousin, and I remember I used to go to a school in South City called Altaloma, and this kid one day I had a Snicker bar. He goes, "Hey, I'll give you $1 for your Snicker." And I was like, $1? I paid 60 cents for this. So I sold to him. The next day I used to go with my dad to this wholesale called Pitco, which was like a Costco for grocery stores. And so they had a thing of now laters. It was like, 100 now laters for $5. I'm like, I bet I can sell these now laters for 50 cents a piece. And I sold it, and then I made money off that bucket. And then I started carrying a backpack that had wheels on it that had, I would have Snickers, Milky Way bars, all kinds of snacks. And so then, within a month I made like $500, about 2 pairs of Jordans. I was happy. And then I would buy pencils, mechanical pencils, and just started selling stuff. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't think about it. Like looking back now, that was just something that was out of necessity. I wanted nice shoes, and I needed cash, and how do I do it? And I started doing that, and it just became. I became that guy that would sell things out of his backpack.
Yeah, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, so I never realized that until recently that that's how it started. But yeah, it was necessity. I wanted shoes. I mean, I remember my first thoughts about cars. We drove a 1979 Caprice Classic station wagon.
Wow.
So it wasn't the coolest car. But I remember at school there was a book sale, and there was a big poster of a Ferrari F40, and it was $5. And $5 when you're in I think it was first or second grade is a lot of money. But I bought that thing, and it's cool to dream about it. But being in the industry, cars excite me in regards to the business and customers. But to me, it's just another way to get home and get to work. So
yeah, it gets from A to B.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, you were a great young car salesperson already, obviously. What are some top 3 trait a great salesperson can have?
Oh man, so like I said, you can't be sensitive. You got to have thick skin. I can't emphasize that enough. You have 90% of the customers coming in here, or anybody you're dealing with, who just don't like you. So you can't take that personal. Second thing is you got to be resourceful. You got to just figure things out. My first dealership I worked at was Full Swing Dodge. The owner was infamously, he was a tough guy. He was not easy to deal with, and he went through people a lot. And I think I lasted there as long as I did because A, I grew up in an immigrant household, and then B, I was resourceful. I figured things out. Like I would say, yeah, I can do it, and I had no idea how to do it. My first biggest jump was becoming director of operations for his group. We went from 1 store to 15 stores.
Wow.
And he needed somebody to fill out dealer agreements, which now it's a basic thing, but at the time I had never filled one out, never seen one before. And the guy who was doing it actually passed away that's another story for another day. But I was like, hey, Carlos, I can do it. I can fill it out. I saw Barry do it. I'll figure it out. I had no idea what I was doing. There was no Chat GPT.
I love
You couldn't Google it back then.
I love it. You committed it and figured it out.
I filled it out. You know, I just kind of went through it and I started asking questions. I called the bank up. What's this form? What's this? What's that? But he needed somebody, because we were opening up 15 stores in 1 year, to do that. And so I just kind of just assumed the position and just kept on going with it. So, you know, the third thing is, I probably shouldn't say this too much, but it's better to ask for permission than, or better to ask for forgiveness and permission, right? So you got to be resourceful. You got to figure things out, and don't worry about breaking a few eggs. You know, it's going to happen. But if you show dedication, you show up to work, and you're the first guy in, last guy out, no one's going to be mad at you, right? You're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen, but you learn from them. Don't make the same mistake more than once, and then it should carry you through.
Yeah.
To me, that if I see somebody who is not lazy, they're hustling, they're moving back and forth, it's not a doing problem, it's a knowing problem, then we'll teach them how to do it. They'll know then.
I think the key takeaways is thick skin and perseverance.
Yeah.
I think those two combined.
Yeah, I can't emphasize resourcefulness enough. You got to be resourceful. That's something that's, I personally think in life that's important, but especially in business.
I wanted to add problem solving as well.
Yeah, that's part of resourcefulness. You gotta. If you can't figure out how to solve a problem, then you're not really valuable.
Yeah,
But
I agree. Yeah, kind of pivot back. You mentioned social media, so I think that's like a big topic of discussion, especially in the car industry right now. I mean, I met a dealer, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. He said he canceled all his subscriptions and he's full-time social media. So it almost seems like there was like a big marketing shift that's happening. I mean, how do you utilize social media, and then what do you recommend to dealers?
I'm terrible at it,
What do you recommend to dealers who are not on social media?
Just do it, man. Like I'm still a bit timid on it, and I agree. So the goal before was, you have third-party sites like Cars.com, Car Gurus, and it's kind of, I hate to use this reference. It's almost like doing a drug. Like it's an instant shot of being happy and getting leads. But then you got to keep on paying the juice, and then you become dependent on it. And so I remember like when Car Gurus first came out in like 2012, it was free. We were paying probably at the time $3 to $4 grand a month per other third-party sites, and then here comes Car Gurus, and your leads are coming in, and they're selling, and they're doing well. And then now if you want to do Car Gurus at a decent level, it's 10 grand a month.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I think that the high cost of them, and they control you. I mean, you have no choice, because how you're gonna get your name out there besides them? Because no one, like if someone wants a vehicle, whether it's a used Ferrari or a used Ford Escort, they're not typing in Sweis Infiniti.com and looking it up. They're going to Car Gurus, Cars.com, Auto Trader, CustomCars.com, and they're finding the car, then they're finding the dealership, right?
Yes.
So you become very dependent on these third-party sites. The goal was, before social media really blew up, and there's influencers and sales through social media. Yeah. The goal was always to build traffic to your site, whether it's through organic, using SEO, and really building your platform and increasing your foot traffic on your website. That's taken a big shift in the last several years, because you can do that now, but through social media, through I hate using the word influencer, but people when they see somebody locally, a face they know, whether it's you or somebody else, there is that third party trust to have. And once you show them a bit of the inside of the business, or whatever the business are, whether you're a coffee shop or a sandwich shop or a dealership, and you put a human side to the brand, they become a bit more trusting of dealing with you. Yeah. So that shift in marketing, I agree. Whoever you were talking to, if you put, if I spend 10 grand on Car Gurus, or spend 10 grand on a good social media campaign that was building my brand, building my name, building my store, there's a lot more long-term run on that money than it would be 10 grand per month for a third-party site. So social media is huge. I haven't figured it out yet. I have not been on social media until I bought the store. So it's all new to me, and everybody I talk to who's done really well in this space, just tell you to just do it. Like, you're gonna make a bunch of really crappy videos, you're gonna make a bunch of mistakes, and typically if you make mistakes in videos, what happens is people wanna make fun of you, and you get a bunch of comments, and which is good. You want those comments, right? I misspell things. Right? I misspell things all the time, so I can get the haters to get in the comments, and then you get more comments, the video becomes more relevant, and then exactly, you get the engagement going, and so it's you got to figure it out. And even on like Google, people know the difference between paid social media and just, organic videos that you post.
Absolutely.
As soon as you see a sponsored, clip at the bottom, they're just scrolling to the next one.
Yeah, they're going right past it.
So you got to be who you are, and you got to put it out there. And they're either going to love you or hate you. But if you get some good engagement, then it's going to work.
Yeah, I think authenticity is key because people buy from who they like.
Exactly.
And I think that's a key factor, and it helps build that trust. Yeah, love it. So we kind of tapped in social media. So I know right now we kind of tapped in how there's a lot of shifts happening, market shifts, vehicle acquisition needs to mention. What do you think right now is like the biggest challenge in the industry, in the car dealer?
Man, listen, this is an industry that you're getting attacked from every angle. What I mean by that is you have the FTC, you have government agencies that are, for good reason, they have an eye on the car business. This is one of the businesses, there's a lot of money coming through it, but it's, despite what people think, it's not, it's profitable, but we're the second, per dollar kept in regards to profit margins. We're the second worst. The first worst is a grocery store. If you're keeping 5 cents on the dollar, grocery store, you're doing well. So you're dealing with high cost items with a lower profit margin because of the internet and because of competition.
Yeah.
The plus side of that competition and the internet is higher volumes. I can sell these cars here at an Infiniti dealership, whereas 10 years ago, you're not going to catch anybody putting, a Maybach in the showroom floor at an Infiniti store, unless it's the dealer's car. So there is a positive of having that, higher volume. But there's a lot of things that you can go in against the car business, which, you're dealing with Federal Trade Commission guidelines, you're dealing with your financing, you're dealing with cash handling. So there's a lot of outside things that influence, how the business is ran. Yeah.
I agree. All right, cool. And then a little bit of same thing, but like someone, let's say, they're buying, selling cars right now on Facebook Marketplace as like a side hustle, but they want to take this to the next level. They want to take this more serious. What's some advice you have for someone new getting into the business, maybe as a car dealer owner, trying to do it full time? And what's some recommendations you would say to a rookie getting in the game?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I think the salesperson position is probably one of the most valuable positions out of any industry. I always say this, even for people who are students in college, whether they're going to finance, law, or any professional industry, if you can work in sales and deal with the denial and deal with the turnover of customers that you see all the time, and influence somebody to come in here and spend $50,000 with you, that's an MBA in any business school. And a lot of these students who do come, I've worked with a lot of friends' kids, a lot of relatives that come in here for the summertime and work. It's a great job to get some untangible qualities and how to deal with customers, how to sell, and how to influence. Negotiation is huge. I always found the best people who got in the car business were people in the service industry, bartenders, waiters, because that first initial issue you have, that being timid with the customer, you've dealt with that, and you're focused on the customer satisfaction. So those industries, those have been good transition positions. Back to your question on what advice, my only advice is you got to have short-term memory. I mean, because if you had a bad day, you can't let that carry on to the next day. And I hate to beat a dead horse, but you got to have thick skin. I mean, you got to be able to take denial real well. If you can do those things, and you can not be discouraged by all the haters or all the negativity in the business, you'll do well. And then you can take this into other industries. I personally think this is a great career path for a lot of people. Whether you go from sales to finance to a sales manager, to general manager, and then eventually one day if you get your own store. I mean, there's a lot of different lessons and that you will learn in this business being in sales.
I know we talked about customers and salesperson having the 3 important traits. If money was not the resource or variable in starting a business, what are some important variables to start a business like that you need to focus on? Let's say I take all your money right now, right? What are like if someone's doing a 9-to-5 job?
You're talking about opening up a dealership?
Yeah, dealership in general, or just starting a business in general. Like how does that?
You have to know your market. I mean, here, listen. And you guys know, especially like in the Chicagoland area, it's like people find a new niche, whether it's a coffee shop, all of a sudden there's 100 coffee shops within 10 blocks, right? you got to see. It's crazy, right? It's like seeing those mattress stores everywhere. I mean, you can't ever reinvent the wheel. But I learned this from a Disney customer experience class I went to, and and there's one phrase that I learned from that 15 years ago that I keep to today. When people come in here and they're mad at you, or they bought a car and the engine blew. I didn't build the car. The thing I always tell people, it might not be your fault, but it's your problem, right? And if you can adopt the mentality that you're going to take care of the customer, I didn't cause that car to blow up. I didn't cause you to get a bad cup of coffee, or I didn't cause you to, not like that sandwich. But if I can, make it my problem and figure out how to fix that for them, then I'm going to stand out. So whether you're making sandwiches, maybe you're making coffee, and you have that interaction with customers, that you care about their experience and not just another, number in the store, that's huge. I mean, I think, we've only been here for about a year and a half, and we already have repeat customers in a year and a half, which is, I think, I'll pat everybody in the back here because of their experiences with our employees. They come back and send more customers because they keep the mentality that, we don't always, the next customer's never guaranteed, and we want to figure out what their issue is and give them a good solution for that. I think that translates to any business. Yes, money's important. You need capital to run a business and to have longevity, because not every month is a great month. You're going to have to handle and survive the bad months. If you have a ice cream shop, I guarantee in Chicago in January it's not going to be very busy. But if you have the best ice cream in Chicago and you're busy from spring to end of summer, early fall, you'll survive those winter months and you'll be fine. People can't wait to come back to your ice cream shop. This business is very cyclical too. January, February, it's notoriously the worst months in the business in the Midwest because of the weather. When it's negative 40 degrees, no one's coming to buy a car. When they come in, they're here to buy a car, so they're not wasting their time. But you have to be profitable and you have to have capital to survive those months. It's very important. But again, I think customer focus and customer trust is huge. People buy from Amazon because they know when they click it, it's going to be there in a day or two. They just know that it's that trust. It's the simplicity of finding what you want, and then above and beyond that is trusting that I'm going to get my package. And so once people trust you, they'll do business with you.
How do you deal with a tough customer? I know you already mentioned it.
We get a lot
what
of
are
those.
some recommendations that you would have? Like there's a tough customer coming in. Like, how do you deal with that?
Trying to think of a particular scenario, because we get
no names.
Yeah, no names. And they're still customers. It's like having it's like your kid, right? You might have a few kids, and one might just be that one difficult kid, still your kid. So when a customer comes here, you don't win by not selling them a car. It's not you got to keep your ego out of it, right? If you come in here and they want to come and they want to argue with you about, well, this 0 to 60 in this car is X and they're wrong, what do you win by proving them wrong, right? You're not going to win anything. We get employees who get really upset because, they'll spend 3, 4, 5 hours, half a day with a customer, and the customer leaves, and that does suck. It's terrible. But we go back and review the deal. Yeah. Where did it go wrong? Oh, you're trying to prove them wrong. Cool. How did that help you out, right? You don't win unless you sell them a car. And the way you win and sell them a car is building that trust. We get, like I said, those 10% customers, no matter what you do, they're gonna, you don't know what happened. You don't know if they just got divorced, if their dad's in the hospital. You have no idea what their background is. So you can't take what they tell you personal. We just had a customer this weekend, and she came in, the first thing she told our salesperson was, this is a terrible deal. Now, this price is offensive. That's actually what she said. And if you're in the business and you look this car up, it's not offensive. It was a phenomenal deal. It was priced number one in the country, but you can't take that personal. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Why do you find it offensive? And keep asking whys. Why? Okay, show me why. And then okay, I can see why you think that. Can I show these reasons why it's not? And then kind of go through it. And if a customer comes in here and they want to fight, let them fight. Don't waste your time, and let them go through their rigmarole. But a lot of times it's usually because the ego gets in the way, and you want to win. You want to win the fight with the customer's ego, and that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, I think from the outside, even being in the business myself, is biggest thing is that keeping the ego aside. I think when the ego is set aside, you will make 10x progress.
100%. You can't cash an ego check, right?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You need to have your ego bit, right? You got to get up in the morning and you do your gratitudes and your affirmations and build yourself up, because you don't know what the day's going to be, right? You got to pump yourself up. I really believe in that. You got to put your problems outside and then come in here and you know that you're the man or you're the woman that's going to get things done. But when you're in front of a customer, you're in the customer service business. You got to service them. You got to take care of them. And if you don't put that ego in check, you might win every fight you come in here, but you won't be here very long.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we reached 30-minute time lapse.
Cool.
Yeah, Sam.
It was a
Sam
pleasure.
Sweis, you guys, the man himself. Really appreciate you hopping on and
Thank you, guys.
being our first guest. And I had a lot more questions left. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll have to see. And yeah, Sam Sweis, appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
There you guys
Appreciate
have it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cool.
Thank you, Sam. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, guys.